Eric Bischoff, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, you picked the perfect day to come on. You're the talk of wrestling.
Well, hopefully I haven't been near a computer obviously since yesterday, so hopefully it's positive.
It's been real positive. It's it's the best Nitro show in a long, long time.
Well, that's not saying much.
It's the nicest thing I'm going to say. It's true.
That's kind of like a cool way of saying, well, you really didn't suck last night.
Well, at least you have a sense of humor about the product the last 3 months.
Well, you know what? In its fairness, it's not just been the last 3 months. I've been gone for 7 months, and we weren't exactly, blowing the roof off the building before I left either. So, WCW's been in a kind of a soft state, in my opinion, for about a year and a half. It's been since I've felt personally that we've been competitive and that we've had a tight product. So it's not just been the last 3 months. I think the last 3 months were as horrible as it's ever been, but it didn't start 3 months ago.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you, what do you attribute the fall of WCW going back a year and a half when it started to go down to? And also, what have you learned by not being there week after week and not having that pressure to put on a show every Monday, and you can kind of sit back and look at it from a different perspective?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm going to try not to repeat some of the answers that I've given out in the multitudes of interviews that I've done over the last week. But, there isn't just one thing that went wrong, unfortunately, because that would be real easy to fix and to focus on. There's a lot of things. Complacency certainly factors in. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we were rolling. We were on top, and we found a formula that worked very well for us. We didn't think about changing that formula. Fans got tired of that formula, and we tried different variations of it, to kind of keep the interest, but quite frankly, it just didn't work. One of the other things that really changed the audience's taste, quite frankly, is the direction that the WWF went in. During that period of time when we were really dominating them for as long as we were, and the gap was getting wider and wider, and the pressure was really on, they made a drastic strategic change in the way they produced their program, including the TNA and the language and the hand gestures and all of that, created a real edgy, dangerous kind of show. Dangerous in terms of, watching it. We couldn't follow that. We knew we couldn't follow that. I knew we couldn't follow that. And not only had we grown complacent, quite frankly, from a creative point of view, but in order to compete with them, we would have had to go a step further in that direction than they were going to really be competitive, and that looked just like a Me Too kind of an effort. And we couldn't do that. We were stuck in a creative box, quite frankly, because of who we are, meaning, Turner, Time Warner, that was very difficult to get out of. And there was a lot of other things. We didn't use our young talent the way we should have used our young talent. We didn't create interest in our stories the way we should have. And there's a lot of things that went wrong. And as far as what I've learned, I've just learned to focus on those things. Just sit back, look at it as objectively as you could humanly be. And I'm trying to be objective. There's still a big part of me that's wrapped around this thing, and some of the right things that we did, but. I'm also trying to step back and look at some of the wrong decisions we've made and fix them.
How did everything go down yesterday with Mike Awesome and over whatever it was the last week, or what did it take to bring him in, and how did everything get settled with ECW?
Actually, it's not settled, and because it's not settled, I can't talk about it. And it's not that I don't want to, but I literally, the reason I was 10 minutes late calling into you is I was on the phone with our attorneys, and I can't discuss.
Okay. So is he is he with you, or is everything still up in the air then?
It's still a jump ball.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, what do you have any as far as any matches as far as a card aside from the main event for Chicago on Sunday?
Basically, they're all going to be title matches. We haven't named any matches yet, and we're not going to do that until tonight. It'll become more clear tonight. I don't want to scoop my own show.
Okay. Any interest as far as bringing in some free agents as far as Sabu's a name that's popped around the last couple of days?
Yeah. I like Sabu. Personally, I guess I got along with him. I never really had, that much to do with him. but the short period of time he was here, I enjoyed having him here, and he was a professional. I like what he does in the ring. When I heard that he was coming to WCW, before I really knew I was coming back to WCW, my only question was, he's got a guy that's got a very unique style, and it takes, two people to dance. I'm not sure that there's anybody here that can dance with the guy, on an ongoing basis. You can get a couple special matches out of him here or there, or here and there, but, we don't have, the kind of talent that we need to have the kind of matches that really make him look good on our roster. But we're talking about it, and sure there's interest there. I'm not sure if it'll ever happen, but we'll certainly look at it. As far as other free agents, there's just not that many out there, quite frankly. The WWF has got their guys wrapped up pretty well. We've got our guys wrapped up pretty well. As far as everybody else goes, I don't want to speak to that, but apparently they may or may not be wrapped up, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah. Now, a guy for Sabu maybe is Crowbar, as far as...
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are one or two guys here, but if you're going to bring someone in, particularly, a guy like Sabu who's going to want some bucks, you got to have, a lot of guys here for him. You have a pool of talent that they can work with, so they can work against each other, and you can develop storylines and angles that are going to last 6 months or a year or whatever. You got to have guys in case Crowbar gets injured, you can still have a match with. And I just don't think we have enough guys that will really complement Sabu the way he needs to be complimented.
What's exactly your title and your duties right now?
Wrestling God is the title that I'm answering to today. Wrestling Dog perhaps tomorrow, but you never know. The duties really vary, from day to day. Vince Russo is really running things as far as the television show is concerned. I work with Vince. Long-term planning, strategic issues, that involve creative talent issues that involve, long-term storylines and things like that. But basically, Vince and I are working together on the show to kind of set the tone of the show and book long-term plans on a day-to-day basis. For example, today I'm probably handling more things that has to do with the Mike Awesome situation than I normally would, but the duties really vary depending on the situation. And I don't have a title, all kidding aside. When I came back to WCW, I made it clear that, in fact, when they called and said, what would it take to get you back? I said, well, I don't want to come back unless, the situation has changed dramatically, and unless my situation, my relationship with the company can change dramatically. Because there's just a lot of things that I didn't want to get involved with again. And when Brad and I talked about it, we discussed the areas that I think that I can contribute the most in. One of those areas being creative. One of the areas that they were most interested in at the time, was the talent end of it. And the third area, where I think I can really be the biggest benefit, is in, the strategic growth of the brand. Opportunities like Ready to Rumble and other projects that we have in development that will not only grow the WCW brand, as far as a wrestling company, but it'll grow us, in an entertainment field as well.
Is there anything that you're doing? Because I think one of the things about the WCW in the last, really, I think this has probably gone back 3-4 years in a form, which is a storyline form, but certainly in the last year and a half, especially with teenagers and even young adults, WCW has represented sort of a uncool, unhip, failing wrestling company to a lot of people. Is there anything that you're trying to do, from an outsider perspective to, obviously I think that's probably your number one challenge is that image of WCW right now.
Well, a part of that image goes back to what we talked about earlier. When the WWF launched, the kind of strategic campaign that they did, 2 years ago, that certainly was edgy, and by virtue of the fact that it was, I don't know how to really characterize it, but it was, let's call it R-rated television at the time. That was cool, to a large part of the audience that watches wrestling, that was really taking it to the next level. We're not able to do that, so by virtue of that fact, we were perceived to be uncool. That was one of the reasons, we were perceived to be uncool. But, one thing I really want to point out, when we were winning and we were on top and we were really growing Nitro and growing the brand, we were the coolest thing going because of the way that we went about doing it. We changed wrestling in 95 and 96, 97, early 98, and we were the ones that had the edge. WWF countered in a way that we couldn't counteract, really. And now the challenge before us, and you're right about this, Dave, the challenge before us now is how do we get cool? How do we get that edge? How do we make this brand attractive to a demo that is basically 18 to 39-year-old men? How do we get attractive to them without doing, the same thing that the WWF did? I think last night's show is an example of what we're going to try to do. I think that should speak for itself, and we're going to try to do more of that. You know, the wrestling audiences, Dave, they want to be surprised. They want to be challenged. They want you to do things that they didn't predict or couldn't predict. They love to be swerved, and that's one of the first things we're going to try to really focus on, because those are things that we can do.
Now, last night there was a lot of what I would call insider comments, and you could see in the building in Denver, I'll tell you what the thing that I would say would be negative on the show as a fan was I'm watching announcers, Scott Hudson, who, I think does a great job, but I mean, he's trying to oversell something that the live crowd doesn't understand. It's like when he's going, oh my God, and the live crowd is sitting there for like an insider comment. I think that it's almost like, the people at home are going like, he's overselling something that doesn't exist, because I think I think the majority of the audience, if the fans live aren't really understanding, I think the majority of the audience at home isn't, and unless it's the announcers are given the leeway to explain when it's clear the audience isn't understanding a comment,
yeah.
or the person who's delivering the comment, even like your comment with the scissors with Sid Vicious,
yeah.
It's sort of like it was real obvious that most people don't know that story. It's a great story for people who do know.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's got to be. I think some of the stuff needs to be better explained, or it's just going, or people are just going like, what is going on in these storylines?
No, you're right about that, and it's a little frustrating for me, but I understand why they're doing what they're doing, and really it's up to us to kind of corral everybody and say, okay, look, here's what we want to do, here's what we don't want to do. I don't agree with the use of insider comments. I really don't, for the very reasons that you pointed out. Unfortunately, though, especially with young announcers, and Scott's a relatively new announcer. He's very new at this, and so is Mark Madden, for that matter. And a guy like Shivani, who has obviously a lot of experience, is trying to be cool in his own way. He's trying to be relevant to the audience, and we all forget, because everybody's adjusting to the whole internet phenomenon, and I mean not just in wrestling. Our entire culture is adjusting to the internet phenomenon, because it's virtually affecting almost every aspect of our lives, particularly in the entertainment business, and everybody's adjusting to it. But I think one of the ways that we've overcorrected, if you will, or tried to overreach our embrace of the internet audience, is by using a lot of inside information. It's true, guys like Dave Meltzer do it, and Wade Keller, and whoever else has got their own internet sites or their own news webs. Certainly, you guys do it, and our guys are affected by that. And sometimes to kind of be relevant to that audience, they go too far. And we got to remember who our audience is. Our audience, generally speaking, are people that have never been near an internet wrestling site or been near a newsletter. If you was going to call it a dirt sheet, but out of respect for you, Dave, I won't call it a dirt sheet.
Okay. What's as far as the TV situation? I've got a couple of emails from Canada, and I'm just how it regards. Do you have any idea of where the WWF is going to wind up in September? If it's going to be on a CBS cable and off of USA, and how that would affect the landscape, and also if that were to happen and they would be off TSN, would you be able to move to the Monday night slot on TSN and be more up to date in Canada?
I don't know. I haven't really stayed abreast of that, the CBS Viacom deal as it relates to WWF. I really don't know, and quite frankly, I haven't given much thought to it. There's been too many other things that have been more pressing right now. In terms of what a move like that, how that would affect the overall landscape. Generally speaking, I think it's a good thing. Anytime there's growth in the industry, and I don't care if it's a WWF's growth or WCW's or ECW's or anybody else's, for the business to sustain itself long term, we all have to grow. So I think it's a great thing. When I read it, was I jealous? Yeah, I'd love to be sitting down with, CBS or any other network and having a broadcast partner. But the fact that it's not me is not that big a deal. I just think it's important for the business, and I'm glad it's happening.
Now, I was going to say about, what do I have right here? As far as the injury situation in the company kind of has a thing. What's your thoughts as far as cutting guys' pay when they're injured, unable to perform? Do you think that it encourages some guys to come back too early, which may encourage drug use, or do you think it's something that necessarily needs to be done just because of the nature of the wrestling business? Yeah,
kind of reaching a little bit there as far as whether a guy's injury, cutting his pay is going to force him to use drugs or not. That's a stretch.
It could.
It could, I guess, but there's a lot of other factors that are going to encourage that before an injury will. If a guy's going to do it, he's going to do it. Period. Look, the WWF business model and the WCW business model are two entirely different models. And by the way, I didn't create this. I wasn't the first one in WCW to offer a guaranteed contract. It's kind of an environment and a model that I inherited. Certainly I expanded upon it and took it to a whole new level. But, guaranteed contracts were the way business was being done in WCW long before Eric Bischoff arrived. Now, that being said, the WWF's talent business model, if you will, is such that if you work and you perform and you're on the road and you're at house shows and you're on pay-per-views and do TVs, you make a lot of money. If you don't, because you're injured or otherwise, you don't make that much money. They offer a downside guarantee, which is basically, who knows, anywhere from half to a third of what guys who are working all the time make. You see what I'm saying? So if you're healthy, you're working, you get a downside guarantee plus all these other benefits that you get by being on the road and being in house shows. What we've done is say, look, our business model isn't built that way. We don't pay you based on the number of performances. You don't get a share of the house or share of a pay-per-view. That's just not how we operate. But at the same time, we've got to protect ourselves too, so that if a guy does get injured, we're not paying top dollar. Just like Vince McMahon doesn't pay, his guys a share of a house show that they're not on. It's basically the same thing. We've just adjusted it to the way WCW does business. You have to do that. You can't, we can't be in this business, particularly with the number of guys that we have and the levels that we're paying them. You can't afford to keep them, at full pay when they're not working. It's just not, no other business does.
Is there any things that you're seeing as far as from the outside, as far as that you might want to, whether it be unprotected chair shots to the head or something that's kind of a dangerous trend that you may want to, obviously this is an audience that wants thrills, and it's this double-edged sword. They want thrills, they want more and more thrills, like the Evel Knievel, but then the other end of that is that the more you do that, the more guys you're going to have on the injury list. And is there kind of like a balance of where you want to stop, or do you think it's gone too far?
No, that's a good point. It's a great observation, and to a degree, I think it has gone too far. And it's not the first time I've ever felt that way. When Mick Foley was working for WCW, I remember we were at an event in Philadelphia, and he wanted to come off a balcony onto the floor, and I said, Mick, I can't let you do that. He really wanted to do that because he knew it would get him over. It would have gotten him over, and it would have gotten WCW over. But there's a point where you're going to say, no, okay, it's great for tonight, but you're going to be able to make a house show tomorrow night. Are you going to be able to get up and go play with your kids next week? There's a point where it is too far. And putting, Mick aside, because he's a very special guy, with how he's been able to do it all these years, I just do not know. But, your average wrestler is not going to be able to do those kinds of things over and over and over. He's not going to be able to replicate them every night in house shows or every week in house shows and on other television shows and pay-per-views without getting hurt and then, being off the roster or worse, for that matter. So the challenge, I think, is for guys to find ways to get over without having to potentially injure themselves to the extent that they do.
Now, we should give the phones real quick. And everyone, we've got a full bank of calls, so we want to go through these as quickly as we can. I'll start with Pete in Toronto. You're up with Eric.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Okay. I didn't really hear the answer there. Do you have any plans on getting the Nitro show shown live on Monday or moved to a different time slot? Because we don't get it here on TSN until like midnight on Wednesday or 3:30 a.m. on Wednesday.
My answer, quite honestly, was I haven't really had time to address that.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly on the list of things that need to get done and need to get fixed, and if there's an opportunity there, we certainly want to take advantage of it. But I've only been back really, for really about a week and a half, and it's just not something that I've dealt with yet.
All right, that's all. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Okay, you're very welcome. Speaking of the time slots, I know that you've made some comments about this elsewhere. Are you going to make a strong push to move Nitro back an hour on Monday night so you go head-to-head for 2 hours, or move Thunder to Thursday?
Definitely, I want to go head-to-head on Monday. I mean, I think that's, that's high on my list of priorities to go head-to-head. For all the reasons you probably, read about, and I'll repeat it, one more time. If we want to be competitive, if we want to win the fight, we've got to get in the fight. And I don't think staggering our start times is a competitive move. I think that's an evasive maneuver, not an aggressive maneuver, and we need to be aggressive right now.
But you don't want to go to 3 hours again, do you?
I would rather chew off my leg than go 3 hours. I didn't want to do it the first time, and I certainly won't go back to it now.
Let's go to Western Virginia. Wes, you're up with Eric.
Hi, guys. Eric, one of the things I thought that was great about WCW in like 95 and 96 was the cruiserweight division and the excellent work rate from the guys. Do you plan on doing anything to rebuild that to help, bring in fans?
Absolutely. And I know this will sound like I'm blowing my own horn here, and to a degree I am, and I want to, but that's not really why I'm saying this. We were the first ones, I think, at a national level to really emphasize the cruiserweight division. And we did it, and I'll never forget when I brought Chris and Dean and Eddie into the office and told them what I wanted to do. I said, guys, the matches that you're capable of having are, they're human car crashes. That's what they are. I mean, they're fast-paced, they're explosive, they're exciting to watch. And I think that's an important part of what WCW needs to do. I believed it then, and I believe it now. So to answer your question, absolutely, we want to really put a lot more emphasis on that cruiserweight division because it's entertaining as hell.
Thanks for the comments, Eric.
You bet.
Okay, thanks very much, Wes. Let's go to David in New York. David, you're next up with Eric.
Hey, my question for Eric is, why do you call Bruce Mitchell a pedophile on WrestleLine?
I never did.
You compared him to ML Curley.
I compared Bruce Mitchell's approach to reporting to Jim Thompson's.
But you said he went to the Jim Thompson School of Reporting, which is like saying how Joel Monsoon used to say the Terry Garvin School of Self-Defense.
No, it's not at all.
You were implying... No, but you said that they had similar hobbies and interests.
Absolutely, I did, and they do.
Similar hobbies was a little strong. I thought so.
That might have been a little strong, but they do have similar hobbies. They both write about wrestling.
No, you said you said they have more in common than people would think.
They do have more in common than people think. Neither one of them step outside of their zip code to really report on wrestling. Neither one of them know half the time what the hell they're talking about when it comes to wrestling. But they'll be the first ones to put themselves out as wrestling experts and tell the world what's wrong with it. That's what they have in common.
And my other question is, since your on-air character last night was kind of gloating about ramming the Hummer into the limo, will the Hogan character be pressing charges?
Gee, I don't know. Do you think he should?
I'm just saying that, it's not like he was just suddenly, it's because the way it was done that you come out bragging about it. Last time, if it was like someone, if it was just someone said if it was who was driving the Hummer, but the person could have kept denying it or something, Like if Randy Savage said Eric Bischoff was driving the Hummer, then your character could have denied it, and it's not like there would have been anything, like within the storyline that could have supposedly held up in court, but just the way it was done, like it's not like you just beat him up in the locker room, you hit the guy for the car.
Yeah.
My point is that it's not. It's the fact that the character gloats about it instead of just beating away. I mean, I kind of understand the way that it was done. That if you just drove away without getting out of the car, then it would have been another 3 months of who's driving the Hummer. But it just seems too. I mean, it just seems too unrealistic even for wrestling that someone could hit someone with a car and there will be no charges pressed.
I'm not sure if you're, how old are you, by the way?
Why do I have to tell you that?
Well, you don't have to tell me. I won't take you to court if you don't tell me.
I'm just saying that...
No. Answer the question. How old are you?
I'm a teenager. I'm 15.
Okay. When we produce a show, we're producing a show to create emotion. We're not producing a show to, create a format that would stand up under the scrutiny of a judge. There's a lot of things that we do that in real life would never be able to play out. There's a lot of things that the WWF does that in real life, if you put that real analytical, magnifying glass over every single thing that you do, you wouldn't do anything. And the things that you would do would be pretty boring when you really get down to it.
True, but wrestlers have been arrested on Nitro before, and it was for petty things like powerbombing people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look, you've got a point. When we laid out the show, we lay out a show to create emotion, to create controversy. I did what I did because I wanted people to hate my guts for doing it. And the fact that I gloated about doing it, I think, probably got the reaction that we wanted to get out of the audience. And that's why we did it. Now, is there a more logical approach? It probably is. Is there an approach that would, play out in court? There probably is. But, that's not what we're doing here. We're creating emotion. We're creating entertainment. And sometimes we do it from, a very logical point of view, and sometimes we do things that in real life would never happen. But that's why we're television, and that's why it's entertainment.
You're the last person to talk about logic, though.
I'm sorry?
I mean, you're the kind of the last person to talk about logic, though, because you did push the Giants off the roof. You had that angle.
You're right. Sometimes we do things that are logical, and sometimes we don't. Look, I'm not defending WCW as the rock bed of wrestling logic. That's not the approach.
One last thing.
I hope so. Not that I don't mind talking to you, but
it's okay. One last thing. I mean, there was a lot of criticism for your idea for what you were going to have for Vampiro at the New Year's pay-per-view. Do you regret suggesting that idea, since some people say it led to your demotion?
I'm sorry, I don't even understand the question.
Remember the angle that you thought of with Vampiro jumping into the holy water?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
That wasn't ever planned?
I've never even heard of it before.
Because I've heard of it from a lot of reliable sources.
It can't be too reliable.
I guess so. Dave, do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I vaguely know that there was an angle with Vampiro and the Demon that was. I never heard holy water exactly, but I just heard that there was a Vampiro Demon.
That Vampiro was gonna jump into that Vampiro was gonna get thrown into holy water by the Demon, and ICT was gonna sacrifice themselves or something.
I have never even heard of this before.
Okay, that's a good thing then.
Dave, we've got to get running. We've got a full bank of calls. Okay. Okay, let's go to Tim in Maine. Tim, you're next up.
Hi, Eric. How's it going?
Going great.
Congratulations. I like the gray hair over the black. I got two quick things to say. I'm a longtime WCW fan, and I really, really didn't like last night. I don't know how you can say it's a new era when Hogan and Flair are the most pushed guys on the show. When Hogan says, what are you going to do, put Pin in that spot? Yes, it's exactly what needs to happen. And number two, the other thing that disturbed me was a show full of red flags. I'm talking about Scott Steiner, Scott Hall, Chris Candido, Sean Stasiak almost killing Kurt Hennig. These are not guys that belong in a locker room, and I wonder, why are they there? Why are they employed? I mean, are you guys going to bring in, like, Buddy Landell and Jake Roberts next? Hello?
I'm not sure what you're implying.
I mean, look at Scott Steiner.
Yes.
Yeah, look at Scott Steiner. I mean, did he get that body by lifting weights and eating Metrex bars? I mean, come on. He's got no promo. He can't work. And I mean, he's just a red flag.
Well, I disagree with you, and I think so do a lot of other people.
All right, well, then what about Flair and Hogan? Why are they the most pushed guys when it's like a new era? I think it's just disappointing that a guy like Booker T.
Or are you pretending you were watching the show?
Oh, I watched the whole thing. I watched it twice, actually.
We used Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair to get other people over, which is how they should be being used right now.
Yeah, but Taka Michinoku, like, Triple H sold so bad for Taka, Hogan didn't do a thing to get Kidman over, and all they kept talking about, what's Flair going to do? What's Hogan going to do? You know, why was Booker T only on for 30 seconds?
Look, there were 80 guys in the locker room last night that all wanted to be on that show. There was no way we were going to have 80 people all on the show. We put the show. We put a show together last night that we thought was the best product that we could put out. With the talent that we have and the situation we have. And there's going to be a lot of talent on tonight's show that wasn't on last night's show. There's going to be a lot of talent on next Monday's show that wasn't on. There's going to be a lot of talent on next Monday's show that you didn't see last Monday. Look, we're going to put the whole company out in one night. If that's your point, I'm not even sure I understand it.
Well, it's just that I don't see any new era because all the same old guys are getting pushed again. And you keep talking about the mistakes you made before, and I see you making them again.
I disagree. Absolutely disagree.
But DDP, Sting wrestling twice, Sid wrestling twice?
Sid on again? I mean, I don't know. Where was Booker T? Where was Vampiro? Where were all the young guys? Why is Scott Steiner a young guy?
They were all there last night. Last night was the beginning of a story. It wasn't the complete story. You're going to see those guys tonight. Watch the show tonight and ask yourself the same question. Ask yourself how we're using Booker T. Ask yourself how we're using Vampiro. And then get my home phone number from Dave and call me and tell me that we're not using him the right way. I'll be interested to hear you say that.
Are you serious? If Dave gives me your home phone number, you won't mind. My name's Tim Davis. I'm a Kenny Bunkman. I'll be more than happy to call you. I mean, the fans have said we don't want Jeff Jarrett on top, and you guys put him on. I think WCW's biggest mistake is that you're not listening to the fans sometimes. Hey, listen, I want you to succeed too. I'm right behind you, Eric.
You know what? I absolutely disagree with you, because I would say the overwhelming majority of the audience that we've heard from absolutely loved the show. The fact that you didn't, or the fact that you look at it a different way, doesn't mean that you speak for all of the audience.
But look at the buy rates when Jeff Jarrett was headlining.
No, we're talking about two different things here. You're talking about two different things. You're telling me that you're absolutely convinced that we did the wrong thing last night because we don't listen to the fans.
100%.
I'm telling you that you're wrong.
But you're listening
to the majority of the fans that watched the show last night, that enjoyed the show, feel completely differently than you do. So you don't speak for the entire audience either.
I'm not saying I do. I'm just trying to say some of the things that disturb me. I never said I was. But look at the buy rates that Jarrett had when he was headlining. I'm seeing a lot of mistakes that have been made over the past year, and I saw them last night. That's what I'm saying.
You certainly can't put, the failure that WCW was experiencing over the last 3 months on Jeff Jarrett. You can't look at the buy rates of the pay-per-views that he was on and say it's Jeff Jarrett's fault. The fact is the whole promotion sucked for the last 3 months. The fact is you could put anybody you wanted to in a main event in WCW for the last 3 months and nobody would draw. That's because the brand is down, not because of any one individual. If it was that easy, it'd be easy to fix. It's not that easy.
Okay, Tim, we've got to move on now. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got to move on. Real quick before we get to the next call, I want to ask you what the status of Scott Hall is, because we've had that question asked a lot today.
Yeah, I don't really know. I haven't talked to Scott. I haven't talked to anybody that, I haven't talked to any of his agents or attorneys or anything like that, anybody that represents him. The only thing I know is probably what you know, is that he went in for neck surgery, and beyond that, I really don't know.
Okay, let's go to Anthony in Los Angeles. Anthony, next up with Eric Bischoff.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Eric. This is Anthony. How you doing?
Doing well.
I love the West Observer. I love the show last night. But the
other guy in Maine, will you, that was on just before you?
What was that?
Never mind.
Oh.
Go ahead. We're running low on time, so hurry up.
Okay, I just want to make a quick point. When I heard that Eric Bischoff was coming back to the show, I kind of liked it because he did bring it WCW to its highest point. But I don't like it, the fact that you might be burying Ric Flair. Is there still any animosity towards Ric Flair? Will you be getting rid of him as soon as possible, like you did last time?
I don't want to speak for Ric Flair, but all I can tell you is Rick was very excited about what we did last night. Rick himself is very excited about what we've laid out to him for the future. I had a couple drinks with Rick last night after the show, and we had a great time.
Well, that's true, but, I mean, if you look at it, you have Scott Steiner telling everybody that he got rid of Austin, he got rid of Mick Foley, he got rid of the WCW.
I don't want to cut you off, but I know where you're going. And let me tell you that I agree with you on that. That was wrong. It's wrong to bring, a lot of personal issues to the television screen when it's not designed to create interest, and when it's not being done for money. If you're doing it to further a storyline or to build up for pay-per-view, and both parties are cooperating, then I think it's great, to play off reality. But when you're doing it just to vent, I think it was wrong. I think it was wrong for Scott to do it. I told him I thought it was wrong, and it was a mistake.
But the other thing is that you got Shane Douglas and Scott Steiner going after him, and it could tilt the fans' perception that Ric Flair did get rid of these guys, and that could, and it says bury Flair. And look, I understand that that Hogan did have a big turnaround, but there's a lot of fans out there that do respect Ric Flair, and that's why he has this legend icon status. And me, as a longtime fan since '85, I don't want him buried.
All I can tell you is Rick was very excited about what he did last night. Rick was excited about what we laid out for him for the next couple of months. He's very comfortable with all of it, and he's glad he's a part of it. Now, if that doesn't speak for what Ric Flair wants and what Ric Flair thinks about what we're doing, then nothing does, and people draw whatever conclusions they want to draw.
Well, my last thing is, are you going to bring the Cruiserweight division back strong? Because as a lot of people have said, that was an attributing factor to Nitro being a good rated juggernaut, the Cruiserweight division, and we don't want the artist from, you know, the 29K. We want Hoovy and Ray bringing in 10 minutes. A great match. Is that coming back?
Yes.
Well, there's their answer. Eric, we've got to wrap up. We're pretty much completely out of time here. Eric, I want to thank you very much for doing the show. And obviously, everybody wants to see WCW competitive, and I think even the people who were taking you to task, so to speak, I think everyone's goal is pretty much the same. They want to see a two-horse race, and it's been a one-horse race for a lot of months.
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, you know, I don't take the criticism personally. I really don't. Sometimes I make it sound like I do, but I don't. You know, there are times when I need to be criticized. WCW needs to be criticized. We all need to be criticized, you know, for the right reasons at the right time.